scale. Some of these stones are estimated to be 300 tons. They're fit so perfectly together that you can insert paper or even a razor blade between them. And because of their odd features, the incredible difficulty of actually coring something like this and fitting it boggles the mind. There aren't really any ways of explaining how it was done in modern architecture. He's standing in front of one tooth and a great mouth of teeth of a giant lion. So they literally represented what was above them in the heavens. The top picture is what the city would have looked like earlier, but lower, of course, modern ravages have diminished the shape of the puma, because the puma is the only great lion-like carnivore in South America. Speaking of animal shapes on the ground, this is the Ohio Serpent Mound. And I'm throwing it in here not because it actually represents so much what's above it in heaven, but because it actually is the key to it all. I've heard different explanations for what it's got in its mouth. One is that it's disgorging the cosmic egg of creation. The other is that it's chasing the North Star. I don't think so. I also stumbled across this interesting picture of just an old Rand McNally map from 1895 of Montana. And it kind of hit home because I live right there. And if you noticed already, Lewis and Clark County looks very serpentine. And there's been very much trouble to make Jefferson County look like this round thing in its mouth. There's a little bit of enhancement. I thought about it for a long time, and I finally realized that if I wanted to get to the genesis of it, I'd have to go back to Genesis. A snake doesn't have any arms, so in order to hand off this symbol of knowledge from heaven, it extends itself. And that's the handoff. And that's the agrarian goddess thinking about actually taking a bite of it. And here's where things get theurgically very interesting. The picture that you saw and this fruit that you're looking at now have a fivefold nature. You see, as you cut it through its equator, it actually demonstrates a pentagon, or a pentagraph. And in the Renaissance, when knowledge became available again, painters seem to represent the same fruit over and over again in the same way, golden. And in the Greek times, in the stories of all the golden fruit myths, there was no cultivars that were like yellow apples. And the historians say that the golden apples weren't really, they couldn't have been citrus fruit, they couldn't have been an orange. It always ends up looking the same, and the fruit is Cydonia. Botanically, Pyrus Cydonia, the quince. Leading right back again to what we saw on Mars, artificial structures. Here, Hercules went to Atlas to look for the golden apples on his 11th labor. And the number 11 actually is another symbol for pillars. And to have this golden fruit associated with Hercules and Atlas brings us to the idea that there really is something about this idea of circumscribing a pentagram with an equator. The fruit has a big key to how heaven and earth are connected. So I circumscribed the earth with a pentagram. Well, I circumscribed the pentagram with the equator of the earth, rather. And lo and behold, every place the vertices touch is where a megalithic site exists. The biggest mounds ever found, the biggest monoliths, every single place. And especially here, Baalbek in Cydonia, Lebanon. This is the pregnant stone, as they call it, but the locals call it, in Baalbek, Cydonia. It's approximately 72 feet long by 14 feet high. This one was never fully quarried. It's still stuck to the bedrock, but it's estimated to weigh 1,400 tons. This is called the Baalbek Trilithon. These stones that are incorporated into it are slightly smaller. They're maybe 1,100 tons each. But they're lifted 20 feet off the ground. And they're also placed with exactitude, something that cannot be done today. Above it you see Phoenician architecture, and then Greek, and then Roman. And contemporary historians say the Romans built it. I don't think so either. These are men for scale. There's another picture of the whole complex of the Trilithon. You can see the trouble, actually, that later people had trying to put the incumbent masonry over the top of what they actually had here first. And the locals say that that structure, the platform itself, was built before the flood. And then was built by Cain himself in a fit of raving madness. What was interesting about that first star that I showed you, it doesn't touch Giza. It doesn't touch the Great Pyramid, which is one of the remaining 7 wonders of the world. And I realized that the twin pillars fit into the Gnostic dualistic concepts of how heaven is married to the earth. So maybe there was a second star. Maybe there's an Osiris star. Graham Hancock and Bouval have actually theorized that the pyramids are laid out like the belt of Orion. So I put another star where Giza is, and we actually find all the rest of the places where the megaliths exist on this earth. Mohenjo-Daro, Pakistan. You have Fiji. There's great megalithic sites there. At these vertices here, you actually find megaliths. You find the Tahiti Pyramid exactly on the 149th meridian. And that strange image I was talking about, right here on the 113th, right where I live, right there, is the vertices of that point. And Washington, D.C. is at 77, right there. It's also interesting that the myth and the symbol that fits into this harkens right back again to Cydonia on earth, because Phoenix was actually a son of Agenor, and the Phoenicians were Sidonians. And if you draw a line directly from the 113th meridian, you'll go to Phoenix, Arizona. And Phoenix, Arizona lies on the 33rd parallel. So does Cydonia. In fact, Sidon is exactly on the 33rd parallel, and so is Roswell. So this is what it would look like if you put 2 stars anchored on Prime Meridian and one on Cairo. And you can see where all the points are. And anyone can do that and actually predict where they'll find the most ancient ruins, the biggest ruins, and all the megalithic sites of the earth. And I've highlighted Cairo, which in the Old Arabic meant city of Mars, and Baalbek, Cydonia. These 2 places are divided by 5 degrees exactly, which is redundant to the whole idea of the pentagon pentagram, earth, heaven, earth coordination system. And you have the occult symbol of a circumscribed pentagram. This is a talisman by Eliphas Levi, and it goes even farther into the cosmology and the understanding of heaven to earth. This actually is a talisman that describes how we're oriented in space, believe it or not. The Hebrew letters that surround here are Leviathan. In Christian understanding, Leviathan is the great serpent that lives in the sea, and he frolics there. He's talked about by Job, and he's kind of enigmatic. But to the Hebrew